And by the way, I'm most of the time I am now after as soon as I get the recording, I just put it up on YouTube.
That's
So
good.
like
Okay,
the
cool.
last one's already there, and so shoot,
Sweet,
if you have
sweet.
trouble
Okay,
finding them, let me know. But I'll try to remember to just put them up there, and then you don't have to ask about it. But
cool.
you can, but
I like
you know what I mean. It should be there if
it.
you need it. It should be there as soon as I
Okay.
get a chance. Usually a day or two after. Anyway, but so. I've just been thinking a lot about, I've been reading a meditation book called by John Wellwood called Ordinary Magic.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of,
Ordinary magic.
it's sort of about meditative practices integrated into
Mm-hmm.
everyday life, not as like a
Mm-hmm.
separate stand away thing, but sort of
Interesting.
how do you integrate it into your just normal daily life and things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of got me in the mood, but I was just thinking about how this is way oversimplified, but essentially we get stuck in stories, right? So
Mm-hmm.
whatever's happening to us and how we interpret what's happening is always a
Mm-hmm.
narrative of some kind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not smart enough or I'm I'm not concentrating enough on what I should be or whatever the story is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I just had this thought that I wrote down, which is reminding myself that a full, I'll just say the words first. A full experience of existence has room for many stories that are not the one I happen to be thinking about right now.
Hmm.
And it
I
just,
like that.
right? And it just makes me think about the fact that it's like a it's like a reality wake-up call to
Yeah.
remember that I'm always in a story.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that story,
Mm-hmm.
but I think, at least for me, where I get stuck and where I get in a bad mood, if that when that
Mm-hmm.
happens, is mainly because I think that I have no choice but to be in that story. And so
Yeah.
if I can, I don't even have to know. I don't think I even have to know an alternate story yet. I just have to know that alternate stories exist, just to give myself a little breathing space to say, yeah, I'm telling myself this story, and there are so many more stories that are possible that I'm not seeing right now. And at least it just gives me a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of room to breathe where I'm not trapped in that whatever kind of narrative I'm telling
Right
myself
roll.
about what's happening.
Can I wanna write that down. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, and I can send it
In
to you
my
too. Text it to
in
you.
my handy dandy notebook.
Good.
It's
It's
not
probably
in
it's
the
probably better if you write it
notes.
down in your own version.
Let's see.
I really like your calendar in the background. I can't see in
Oh, thank
detail
you.
what it is, but it looks like night sky and
Yeah,
prairie or something.
it's
That makes me happy.
um the the theme of this calendar is like Starry Night, Van Gogh,
Yeah.
with like national parks. So this one's Yellowstone.
Okay, okay. So it actually is what I thought it was, which is bison
Yeah.
grazing in the
Yeah.
background and
Yeah.
then and stars overhead. That's cool. That's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I my mom got me the a calendar like that last year.
Yeah,
And then for Christmas she got me another one. Excited
cool.
about it. Okay. Okay, I
So yeah,
wanna write down what you said
okay.
first so
So
then
what
I
I
can make
said
my
word for
own.
word. Okay. So my final version of it here at the moment is a full experience of existence has room for many stories that are not the one I happen to be aware of right now.
Yes. Cool.
And I don't know, there's
Beautiful.
something about it that just reminds me, because it applies on a lot of different levels. There's the
Hmm.
personal level, but then I think where I was originally thinking of it was I was reading Ed Harrison's Masks of the Universe about the different cosmologies that different cultures have had over history and Now
Mm.
we're in this
Whoa.
physical scientific cosmology and
Hmm.
so even just at a cultural level, if you just start to remind yourself, oh, there are non-Western cultures. There are,
Hmm.
you know, there have been humans sort of like modern humans for tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of years. And you think about all the different ways they've lived and interacted with the world and believed about, everything from the order of things to what happens after you die to, all the thing, right? The belief systems have been so vastly different. And then, like, one of the things I like about being on the edge of Forest Grove, right, is then every night now I get frog choruses,
Yeah. Yeah.
echoing from, in the call and response from the different frogs. And the first there's the one
Hmm.
frog all alone, and then he gets buddies that respond and they get excited, and then now there's hundreds of them, and then every once in a
Hmm.
while, like 2 nights ago, the coyotes were back, but they were way far away and they were really
Hmm.
going at it, right? And they were howling a lot,
Hmm.
probably a dozen of them. And the frogs were quiet. And then this one frog, just the coyotes howled and the frog just croaked like riveted, as loud as they were howling. And just once, it just like then was
Uh-huh.
quiet. It was like, oh yeah, I can do that too, or something. So again, the point though is just that having these little reminders of how much, not physically big, but how much bigger the world is in terms of
Hmm.
stories, right? The frogs don't know anything about whether they're good at physics or
Hmm.
they don't know anything about relativity, or they don't know the early, but and yet they have their own goals and interests and whatever, and the coyotes
Yeah.
are have their own, and it's just remembering that what you're operating with right at this moment is important, and it's also so limited that if you find yourself stuck, I guess that's the heart of the message for me. If you find
Hmm.
yourself stuck, it's totally okay to just back up and kind of let it be and let it be stuck, because you're only stuck
Hmm.
within the context of a story that's such a small piece of everything that you're not really
Right.
stuck. You're
Right.
you're just you're you're finding the limits of the story, which is fair
Hmm.
enough, but that's different than being
Hmm.
stuck in any deep, real sense. And I feel like it has a lot of implications. I mean, it's especially valuable for, I don't know, for me, like mental health kinds of, depression and
Hmm.
anxiety kinds of things, because a lot of times I
Yeah.
get in those spaces because my whole being is consumed by whatever I'm thinking right then. And I
Hmm.
can't imagine that there's any other way to see it. And then that's where you get stuck, right? You get
Right.
like you can't function in that space, and you don't know that there's another space, and so then you're just paralyzed.
Hmm.
So if you can
Hmm.
just remind yourself that, oh, fine, it's like I'm doing a physics problem. I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I'm stuck on this method. In the context of this method, I'm stuck, but that doesn't mean I'm stuck in the big sense. It just
Hmm.
means I need to stop doing what I'm doing and look for
Hmm.
another way,
Hmm.
which maybe just means going for a run, or, or
Right.
taking a
Or just
nap or
like
whatever.
moving on to the next
Or
problem
moving on to
or
another task, right? Or
uh-huh.
going and listening to the
Hmm.
frogs, or listening to some music for a while, or just
Hmm.
just to give yourself enough room to find new solutions when you get in spaces where you think that the only way to find a solution is to keep plugging away at the space that you're in
Hmm.
right then. I think
Yeah.
that's, you may
Yeah.
you may have a different take on it, but that's a starting point for
Hmm.
thinking about it. That's
Hmm.
kind of how I came to
Yeah, no, I think I
it.
agree. Because I mean, like with when you're in like that spiral or like that space where you're like stuck and it just seems like you're gonna be stuck there forever and like life in general is just gonna suck because you're stuck there
Right.
forever. And but like if you and I mean, I don't know, I feel like also like in that when I'm in that space, it's so hard. Like if like someone like gives a suggestion or something to like do something else. It's just like, no, this is like,
Yeah.
this is the story, and like everything they
Uh-huh.
say, I can shoot down because of the story that I'm saying.
Right. The story tells you how to shoot it down.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, that's crazy. The story tells you how to shoot down the suggestions everybody else is giving to
Right.
help you back up.
Right. Which is actually its own interesting subject of study, I think, which is that the stories truly have a life of their own and they have a sort
Hmm.
of a self-preservation mechanism, right? They like
Hmm.
they don't want you to
Like
leave them,
survival.
right? It's like they're like memes. It's like the survival of the story and it refuses to let you go. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, one of my favorite books is a novel by Colin Wilson called The Mind Parasites.
The
And
mind parasite.
it's kind of like that. Is he sort of
Hmm.
he turns some of those thoughts into actual like, there's parasites in your mind that don't want to let go
Uh-huh.
of whatever ways of thinking or something.
And they're just trying to survive like
And they're
everything
probably just
else
trying, like everybody else, they're
is.
just trying to survive. No, don't reject
Survival
me.
of the fittest.
Yeah. So
Oh.
anyway, so I think, just having lots of reminders, because that's the trick is that when you're outside of it, it's relatively easy to think, oh yeah, of course, there are more
Hmm.
stories. When
Hmm.
you're when you're locked in it is, of course, like you just said, it's the time that you're not
Hmm.
going to see it. You're just going to shoot down everything
Yeah.
anybody tries to tell you. So I
Yeah.
feel like the life skill and the practice is building in ways to keep you from getting stuck in those ruts, right? And so sometimes for
Hmm.
me it's just having these note cards around
Hmm.
but it's got to vary, I think. Or that's why I like your calendar because you turn the pages.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
there are times when I'll stare at this and I'll think, oh, that's stupid. That
Hmm.
doesn't, you know. So it's not like it automatically does anything. It only works if your frame of mind goes, it all boils down to your frame of mind. And all you can do
Hmm.
with external things is try to nudge your frame of mind. And sometimes that
Hmm.
works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
anyway.
it's really interesting because like I don't know, I feel like one thing I don't like about work is purely just a frame of mind thing. And it's like the cooks, like their whole lives are just that.
Yeah.
Like like one of the cooks works like 74 hours a week.
Oh my gosh.
And like, that's like all that's his life. Like that's all he
Yeah.
does. And it makes me feel so sad.
Wow.
Like I
Wow.
can't imagine just like my life being that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Like, and so I don't know, when I go into work, like I feel like my life is like that now, or like something. Like
Right.
even though it's not,
Right.
like I only
You
work like
adopt.
30 hours a week, but like and I have, tubing in like October, and like so it's obviously like this isn't gonna be what I'm doing forever, but just the thought that like, and I'm imposing my own frame of mind on them. It could be that
Mhm.
they are, perfectly happy and fine with doing all of that.
Right. Maybe so.
It's just my story is that that's
Good.
horrible and I hate that so
Right.
much and I wouldn't want to ever do
And you
that.
want to
And
protect yourself from getting drawn into doing something that feels like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. So like I
Yeah.
don't know, I just one when I like am going into work, like one level of like the like sadness about going into work is like that. Like it's not even happening to me,
Right.
but it's just there. And I mean, also like I had a conversation with another cook. They're all Hispanic, and one
Uh-huh.
of them, he like came from Mexico to New York, and the only options for a job were either working construction or working in a kitchen.
Yeah. Okay.
And so like but like not even like just like for a job to get money, it's just like for a career. Like that's
Yeah.
the only thing that you could be because you don't speak English. Like, and that was
Right,
just like the
right,
only option. So
right.
ever since he was my age, he's been working in the kitchen,
In the kitchen.
and he will continue to for the rest of his life. And like that
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
me
yeah, yeah.
so, I mean,
Yeah,
like, he likes it, but I don't
but
know,
you're
like this kind of kitchen, especially like, he seems to be really liking like French cooking and plating and making sauces and stuff. And like he's not doing that right now.
okay.
And yeah, I don't know. It just seems like, you know, people, coming from Mexico to come to America to, you know, land of promise, make money kind of stuff.
Right, to realize that
It
there's
just doesn't seem like that at all. Like
yeah, that's
a
really
career is just so capitalist driven
yeah.
that I don't know, it makes me
And they're
sad.
and that they're tracked in such a
Hmm.
narrow way
Hmm.
that there's not hmm, that there aren't clearly visible pathways to go somewhere else if you wanted to, or maybe even to see that there could be other pathways. I mean, I
Yeah.
wonder if that's part of it is right, just the the environment that closes your mind off to any way to get started going some other way, even if you
Hmm.
wanted to. Yeah, that's
Yeah, no, because the same thing happened to my grandma. Like we were having this conversation one time where like she didn't know what she wanted to do. And when she went to her counselor's office, like in high school,
mhm.
like the counselors just kind of like told people what they were going to do.
Oh, wow.
And so, and especially the women, like
Okay.
she, only really had like very few options. And so it was just like, so you're going to be a teacher. And she's like, okay.
Yeah, I
And,
guess.
she seemed like her direction was going more towards research. She feels like now that like she would have enjoyed like doing some kind of like academic like research or something
Uh-huh.
because she's really interested in like the things that I do and say. And
Yeah.
um like she wishes she knew that that was an option for her, and like she like didn't even realize like that she could even start going in that direction just because it was just not something she could do.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just some
Yeah.
kind of like societal thing that automatically shuts people off from doing like, and it doesn't even let them think twice about it. Like it's just kind of like oh yep, this is the way it goes. Like
And
it's
that's a
not like
really,
a
yeah. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it's just like yep, that is a flower. Like yep, this is an apple. Like it's it couldn't be anything else. It's like how like as the human mind like developed in general, like historically, like there was a point where people didn't like humans didn't even recognize like shapes, like that there were like distinct different shapes, just because
Right.
that just wasn't something they would ever think about. Like it's just so fundamental to them that they don't even think to question it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good line of thought. I mean, because part of the benefit, I mean, other than of course the empathy and trying to help people
Hmm.
is valuable too, but um maybe the most valuable. But anyway, but it's sort of from your own standpoint, part of the value of noticing limitations put on other people is to look for places where you're limited in ways that you aren't aware of, right? Because it's easier to
Hmm.
see it in other
Hmm.
things that seem more,
Hmm.
like we have a lot of freedoms, right, to do all sorts of things. And yet
Yeah.
you think about human history and like, like we were talking about last time, how strange it seemed to change our ideas about space and time. And yet anybody could have
Hmm.
done that
Hmm.
at any point. I mean,
Yeah.
in some ways, it's sort of obvious that it had to be different
Right.
than than how we were taking for granted. And yet, there's like places in the thought map that just haven't been explored yet that we don't even think to go because we don't know that there are places that we haven't gone. So I wonder about that. I mean, just as an example, right? We have lots of choice, and yet you think of, well, I could teach physics, I could do research
Hmm.
at a national lab, I could be research physicist at a big university or whatever, but think about all the things that you and I interested in physics research don't even like, well, you could create a whole new field that
Hmm.
doesn't exist yet because those ones got
Right.
created. But that's not really part of your, for valid reasons, it's not part of your mental map because it would take a lot of sacrifice and a lot of, it would take a lot of
Hmm.
activation energy to build new ones.
Hmm.
What the
Hmm.
that's what gives the stability to the patterns of the ones we have. But
Right.
I think it's useful to spend at least some of your time thinking about the sort of, there are a few paths through this vast field or jungle or whatever, and
Hmm.
under most circumstances, it's probably easiest and best way to make progress by just going along the paths. But there can be circumstances where it's worth it to get the machete out and
Yeah.
make some totally new paths and know that there are going to be some hardships with that. And yet all the paths that exist had to go through that phase, at least in some form,
Hmm.
at some point. So, again, back to your point that I guess just that we always have, and in a way it goes back to this again, that we always have a
Yeah.
freedom. There are always more degrees of freedom than we're aware of. Maybe that's a good way,
Yeah, I like
right?
that. There
There.
are more degrees of freedom. Where'd my pencil
Yeah, I'm writing that on the
go?
back to put it in sort of physics terms.
Yeah.
And I think, it's important that that doesn't mean it'd be hard to make progress if you were always just floundering around
Yeah.
looking at all the new extra degrees of freedom, then it just is chaos. There's a
Hmm.
healthy balance of like learning the patterns as they exist, but then not getting stuck in them again, right? And
Hmm.
realizing that, okay, if you get to a place, I mean, it's kind of what that Arthur Zient's perspective, the articles are in some ways about is, right? Is learning enough about the existing paths so that you can look for the contradictions and the paradoxes that tell you that,
Hmm.
okay, in order to make progress, you have to lay out a new path from a controlled
Hmm.
space,
Hmm.
not just going wild, but grounded in
Yeah.
what we already know. And if you forget to even think about that, then it's hard to make progress.
Yeah, it's like the paths already carved out have the building blocks,
Mhm.
but you can like take different building blocks from different other paths, like take other bricks maybe from other paths and use those bricks
Right,
to create the new path. So if you
right,
don't have
right.
the other paths, you don't have anything to
To
build
build
with.
from, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have like it gives you a place to start. It allows you to walk deeper into the field before you
Hmm.
start building something new in a way,
Hmm.
kind of, right?
Hmm.
Rather than
And you
starting
can
from
see
the
how it
edge all the time.
fits.
You can sort of see how
Yeah.
it fits, see what new pieces are needed.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that's the balance to cultivate is you, the breakthroughs don't come from people who don't know anything about the field,
Yeah.
but they also don't come from people who are so rigid about how they apply the rules of the field that they can't see the places where something new is needed, right? So
Hmm.
it's that balance that's necessary. Yeah,
I like that a
yeah.
lot.
So interesting, and that's what makes it fun,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially if you can keep it in a playful space where your worth doesn't depend on what you come up with, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, let's see
Yeah.
what we can do from here.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the advantage of that reminder that a full experience has room for many stories is that just it gives you the freedom to, so just like imagine this. Imagine if you could get to a space where you were just so comfortable and so confident that you were okay,
Hmm.
that nothing you did was ever to try to get to okay or to prove you were okay. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you just,
yeah.
that was just a given, like
That's
so,
just
so embedded in your pores that you just,
hmm
you just knew that you were fine.
hmm
I don't know anyone who fully
So
has
yeah,
reached that state. Yeah, I literally I don't know anyone personally or from history or anyway, I don't know that any human has ever completely done that, but it's a good goal, right? If you could get to a
yeah.
place where you're just so comfortable with yourself as like whatever you do is fine.
Hmm.
And then so that then the things that you do come from a sort of a clear-headed, neutral kind of space where you can really
Hmm.
evaluate what needs to happen next because you're not worried about, well, if this happens, does it mean I'm not smart enough or whatever? You're just
Hmm.
looking at well, actually comes back to chess is a good analogy again, right? I've been sort of
Hmm.
practicing this. Did I tell you invented my own version of so it's contemplative collaborative chess. Is my
Contemplative. Oh yeah, yeah.
contemplative collaborative chess, CCC.
That's the one where you're like, doing a bunch of moves and like seeing like playing around with like the
E-
chessboard like like by
Exactly.
yourself.
Right. Or
Okay,
by
yeah.
myself, or I'll play. So the
Content.
collaborative part is I'll play with somebody, but not
Uh-huh.
against someone really.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
I mean, I'm again playing against them in a sense that it's like, one of the colors is eventually going to win,
Mm-hmm.
but we're both trying to decide together, and one person is making the moves for each color,
Mm-hmm.
but we're both trying to decide collaboratively, like what's an interesting move and what's a
Yeah,
cool
like you
pattern.
like build on top of each other instead
Right.
of try to knock each other down.
Right.
I
But
like that.
what's interesting is, I mean, so most of the time, of course, I'm playing it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is it gives me a space to notice, like I get stressed about making the wrong move. When
Uh-huh.
I'm just
Huh.
right, I mean, I can feel the stress come up, like where I'm like, I realize I'm paralyzed about what move to make next because I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, what if I do this and what, and then,
Mm-hmm.
but then I'm in a space where I can observe that and say, well,
Mm-hmm.
how would I have to change my story so that I don't think that way anymore? And then it lets me
Yeah.
course correct, right? And
Wow.
so it becomes this little microcosm of life of like, I sort of, I sort of try to play chess in such a way that I don't feel any stress about a
Mm-hmm.
move. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
I like that a
it's an
lot.
incredibly difficult goal. It's so funny,
Yeah.
right? I'm just sitting there in front of like trying to make myself make a bad move is a really
Mm-hmm.
good practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
to just take my hand and move the piece in a way that I know is stupid is
Mm-hmm.
really useful because it's hard to do. Because I sort of
Wow.
there's this critic that comes in and says, "Don't do that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not a
stupid.
smart move or something," right? So, but
Huh.
another voice can come in and say, "Well, I'm just trying to play, so just move it and see what happens."
Yeah.
No, there's nobody looking at. But so, if you develop that practice, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
apply it a little bit to life and be like, well, if I feel like I'm safe,
Mm-hmm.
there are lots of paths that I'm going to have a good career and a good, you know, fulfilling life or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then I don't know, maybe I don't know for sure that this is the same for everybody, but I definitely noticed for me that like a lot of my past decisions subconsciously I'm trying to prove that I'm okay by
Mm-hmm.
what
I
I
think me
do,
too.
right?
Yeah.
And so noticing what it's like to not have that as a motivator, to just
Mm-hmm.
take that as a given and then what decides what project I'm going to take on or what,
Mm-hmm.
you know, task I'm going to think about or what puzzle I'm going to spend my energy on or
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway.
I think I think like the story that I have going right now is just like such a serious one.
Hmm.
Like, I have to go to the cafe every morning. so
Uh-huh.
that I am prepared enough to be successful in
Hmm.
this master's program so
Hmm.
that, I can be okay, so I can build a space where I can finally play and not feel like I'm not confident and
Yep.
insecure anymore
Yep.
and like have all the tools to
Which
play
is the
around.
perfectly good goal, by the way, right? I mean, I don't
Right.
want to downplay. Like, it's
Right.
good to
No,
be
but like
serious. It's good.
it can be the story can be rewritten instead of it being so like I need to do this and I need to do that in
Right.
order to get to this place that I need to be at. Like I feel like that's just kind of the way my brain works. It's always like
Hmm.
I need to do this, I need to do that so I can get to
Right.
this place. Like
Right.
if I can rewrite the story to be less of that and more of like I don't want to say want because like it's
Yeah,
still
but
I
a
feel like
different,
it's still like a need, but it's not as a negative. It's not I feel like need has such a negative connotation, like a
mhm,
longing maybe, but like even
yearning.
longing is like I don't have it and I need it. Like it's
Yeah.
implying that I'm currently not okay. And like I feel like
Yeah.
need and want are both implying that I'm
I see.
currently
I
not
see. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. 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 Okay. That's really good insight. Let's see if we can come up with a word of like, maybe almost like you want to see what you're drawn to.
Hmm. Like experiment or
Yeah.
like
To take it outside yourself a little bit and make it like, where do you feel, yeah, something that's like want, but without the
hmm
possessiveness.
hmm
It's almost like what's the natural, like I think if we peel all the other things away, there's a sort of like a least action principle, right? There's sort of a there's sort of a natural way that you have a tendency to go if you
hmm
clear out all the noise. I mean, that's sort of what we mean by want,
Yeah,
right? That, it's,
yeah. Inspiration, drive,
yeah,
natural course, just like your path, the steps you take without necessarily a
what about inclination? Like you're inclined
yeah. I
to come
like
back.
yeah.
If that
No,
even
that
has the
feels good.
downhill, like it's downhill, right?
Yeah, inclination.
Like you're trying to figure out what you're inclined to do.
Hmm. And it can be whatever,
Hmm.
whatever makes you feel warm, your
Hmm.
inclination. Hmm.
Because on average, on the long term, I think that's what's going to be stable, and that's going to be something that you're going to be able to do consistently enough to have the skills to be successful. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that's the if you're constantly driving yourself to do something that you're not really inclined to do,
Hmm.
then it becomes a losing battle at some point because you're always,
Yeah,
you know,
you're always fighting.
right.
And I think like because there's also like the other thing, like we had a few conversations, like your cat essay of just
Yes,
like,
yes, right.
with your question of just like, why
Yes.
do I not want to do the things that I want to do kind of thing. Like there is a point where people probably do need some form of pressure to get through things they don't want to do in order to get to do things they do want to do.
Exactly, right.
And so like if it's always like that like warm like inclination thing, like you're probably going to end up avoiding things that would be fruitful to do to get you to places where you want to be. But if you are constantly fighting to get yourself to do those things, then that's also not pleasant. So it's always like that balance between you have to fight a little bit to do
Exactly.
things that you don't want to do to get to the place where you want to do, but you can't always be fighting because then you won't. have energy and you'll be burned out. And
Yes. I mean, like that was definitely my experience with the few months of intense writing these last 6 months or something like that, right?
hmm
Where, I mean, it wasn't like it felt warm and fuzzy to go sit down and write for 10 hours a day,
yeah.
like all the time. Like sometimes I was like, I could hardly stand it. Like I was like,
Uh-huh.
I cannot say this. But there was something, it just felt so natural that even the parts that made it hard still drew me to it, right? Because it was a challenge and I knew I could get past it.
Right.
It just felt hard.
Right.
And so that was still
Yeah.
fun. Like I didn't feel like I
Yeah.
was doing. Um, a couple of quotes just came to my head that are related to this.
hmm
So one is I saw something that said, well, because I'm thinking about the frogs and why they sing and stuff, right? And they're not like driving themselves to sing, probably. And somewhere I saw a
Right.
quote that said, a bird doesn't sing because it has something to say. It sings because it has a song inside it, right?
Oh,
It's like that
I
just
love
has to get
that.
out. And
Yeah.
then another one is, have you heard that? I just looked it up again. It's Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. He says, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea.
Mm,
So I think that gets to the heart of it, right? It's
wow.
like
Wow.
if you find the thing that you're inclined toward,
hmm
then you're going to do the work that needs to be done
hmm
because you see it as part of that. And maybe not in every
Yeah.
moment, but in the long
Yeah.
term, you see that.
hmm
Whereas if you don't see the point of it, it's going to
Then
be,
it's gonna
you're
be
just
a
going to be
fight.
fighting it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why it's important to remember why you're doing the things that you're doing.
Right. You
I
don't want
feel
to
like
always go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like I try to do that, like when I'm like stuck and getting frustrated,
Uh-huh.
but I think only a certain way, like what I want, like what I'm driving towards has to be phrased a different way or like a certain way
Mhm.
for it to vibe with me in that moment. Because if it's like phrased the way that I like phrased it last time, it's like, oh, that's kind of stupid. Like what? So like it needs to be rephrased in a way that makes my heart feel warm again, kind of like
Yes.
an affirmation.
Yeah.
But like especially when I'm in that space actively, like it's it's not possible for me to come up with that in that moment. So like it's as if
Yeah.
I need to create a list of different ways to say the thing that I want so I can look through all of them and see which one brings that warmth back into my heart
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
instead and like bleeds away the
That's really good.
the depression in the hole and like finding that phrase like or that affirmation
That's good.
that ties with my desire and drive because it's going to be different every time. I feel like
That's good.
it's
Yeah.
not going to be the same.
And I feel like that's part of the creative process too, is that part of the reason it's different every time is because you're making different connections to the rest of what's known and
hmm
what's thought about, right? And so
hmm
I think there's a value in having to think of new ways to say it all the time because
Yeah,
that's how you find new connections and
right.
don't just get stuck in doing something rote that somehow loses its meaning because you're just doing it out of habit.
Yeah, true. Like if you think of a phrase like in choir or something, like you first get introduced to a song and you sing it and like you feel the warmth in your heart. But then the more you practice it, the more you sing it, like it just starts to become like this like poster on the wall that just becomes a part of everything and just
Right.
kind of fades into the
Sort of
background and
dulls, right? It sort of,
yeah, it dulls. So you need to keep that like novelty and and I mean also like you yourself are constantly changing too and probably like what
Mhm,
you want is constantly changing.
mhm,
So it
mhm.
makes sense that having the same like if you write down like this is what I want and then a future time comes around and you need that inspiration again and you read that like that's not going to help that
Mhm,
version of you. Maybe
mhm.
it might have been able to help a past version of you, and that past version of you would have felt warmth in your heart from reading it. but your that current version of you, like, is just
Mhm.
going to be just as cold as it was a second ago when you were
Right. Right.
floundering.
Yeah, I mean that's a good, right? Even just think about that with music you listen to, right? I mean,
Hmm.
when I hear a song for the first time that I just completely fall in love with, and you imagine that you could listen to just that one song over and over again, but if you listen to it like 10 times in a row, then you don't even like the
Hmm.
song anymore, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just sort of,
yeah.
and yet if it comes back after you haven't listened to it for years, then it can sort of
Then you're
rekindle that
like,
sort of sense of like the glimpse of wonder, right? That it's sort of it has to stay fresh somehow.
hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
I like the idea that, like, I've just kind of been introduced to, well, not kind of just introduced to affirmations. I feel like I was first introduced to affirmations like last summer, I think.
Hmm.
And like the concept of them is like either reading them or like saying them out loud, and like it actually like does bring warmth in your heart,
Hmm.
or how like being like like actual gratitude, not being like I'm grateful for my like body and like not really meaning it or anything. Like
Right.
it has to actually mean something to you to bring that warmth into your heart. And it seems like for mental health, it's really important to find ways to bring warmth back in your heart. Like, I don't think I'd
Mhm.
really made that connection before. Like, gratitude is a way to bring the warmth back into your heart, and like
Mhm.
affirmations are a way to bring the warmth back in your heart. And how I use nostalgic memories, I didn't realize that's what I was using them for. But when I think about like pleasant memories from my childhood, like that brings the warmth back into my heart.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, 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 that's good. I can still hear you. I'm just gonna fill up my water just a second.
Okay, cool. Cool. So, I mean, I guess it's really like that, because obviously, like, if your heart is always warm, then you won't know, then like everything will just be neutral because that's just the baseline. So,
Right.
there has to be moments where your heart does feel cold so that you can bring that warmth back.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so, like, it's just hard. Like, you can't want to be happy all the time because then you won't
Because then
be
you won't be.
happy. Yeah.
If you want to be happy all the time, you won't be happy ever, maybe.
Yeah.
Which is
So it's
the paradox.
I like that paradox.
Hmm.
So like really, I mean, it just always boils down to like the moderation, even moderation itself, or like balance.
Uh-huh.
But like you don't want like and I guess like with like depression and anxiety and stuff, that balance is out of balance in favor of the negative pathways.
Hmm. Mhm.
But like I don't know, no one wants to be sad, but you can't be
You can't
happy.
not be, right. And
Yeah, if you're not
yeah,
sad.
I mean, it's kind of like the recognition of the difference between sadness and depression a little bit, right? I mean,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
sadness
Yeah.
is a sort of a natural, like you can watch sadness and know that I'm
Hmm.
sad now and that I
Hmm.
won't always be sad
Hmm.
and that there's meaning in the experience of sadness kind of.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think you can really, I mean, almost by definition of what depression is, you can't
Hmm.
really watch depression that way
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
that's what it means to be depressed is to not
If you're
not have
hopeless,
access to
yeah.
that place where, does that make sense? I'm
Yeah.
not sure I want to say that absolutely as it sounded, but
No, I think
something
you're
like that.
right. Like the depression is the story of being stuck and hopeless, and you won't
Hmm.
ever get unstuck, and it's
Hmm.
not contributing to your life in any way.
Hmm.
It's just happening. But like sadness is like has like some kind of meaning to it, and that
Right. And a meaning that you can still sort of see even as you feel sad.
yeah, maybe.
Whereas I
But
think
that
I
kind of
would,
questions, or I was just gonna say briefly that kind of questions whether or not if I have felt sad before, or like
mm-hmm.
what, like the meaningful like I like the idea of sadness carrying a meaning to it that's not like
All
you're,
is lost.
yeah, all is lost, like you're hopeless. But sorry, you're continue with what you were
Oh,
gonna say.
that's okay. I don't think it was nothing very profound. I guess maybe I was just going to say that I think in my experience, like, I think depression, I think I'm remembering Parker Palmer has a section in his book that's called Let Your Life Speak. It's a little book um,
Mhm,
where he talks about his experience with depression. And he talks about his transition of thinking depression as a friend that was pushing him down to ground that was
mhm,
safe to stand on. And
mhm,
so that the memory of his commentary about depression was leading me to speculate that
mhm,
depression might actually be useful in your life, but I'm not
mhm.
sure that you can see it from the state of depression.
Yeah,
Whereas sadness can
yeah,
be useful in your life, and you might be able to actually see it from
right,
the state of being sad. And
right.
again, I'm not sure that I want to stand by that
Yeah,
distinction as absolute, but it's a useful way to think about the difference, maybe.
yeah. Like depression is you have your story and that's what's happening. Like
Mm.
that's your
That's
that story is the thing that's
expands
happening.
to fill everything.
Yeah, but sadness is like you're more open to the idea that there are more stories and you
Mhm,
can
mhm,
recognize it,
mhm,
but you need to stick with this story for a second
mhm.
to be like cathartic and
Exactly, right, right.
yeah,
Like there's a lot of value in being sad, I think, and in some ways it lets us know what matters to us,
yeah.
right? If we're sad
Hmm.
about losing something, then that's like not that we probably had any doubt, but
Hmm.
in a way it makes it makes it visceral that that's a thing that
Hmm.
or an experience or a person or whoever, right, that matters to us.
Hmm. And I mean, then I guess sadness then crafts the definition of special. Because like if you don't have sadness, you don't, there isn't, there aren't things that are special or
Right,
like sentimental.
right,
Because I
right.
feel like the things that are special and sentimental, you know what they are because you'd be sad without them.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And if you don't have sadness and you always felt love and warmth, nothing would be special.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But you
It's
might be able
almost like
to,
you wouldn't be able to comprehend them as special because there wouldn't be, if somehow there was no possibility of loss,
hmm,
then you'd never have to sort of you'd never have the opportunity to acknowledge the value of something because you'd never have
yeah.
room to consider it not being.
So like for like love too, like
Hmm. Hmm.
you, yeah. Huh, wait.
It's like yin and yang, right? I mean, I think it's sort of the
Yeah.
essence of the idea of yin and yang is you sort of
Uh-huh.
can't. Remember our conversation a few years ago with Ashley about nothing is close to
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can't define one without the other. I mean, actually, it's even sort of related to my recent thing about recognizing that you can't just have a physical world. You can't have something that is observed or described
Right.
without an observer or a
Without the
describer,
observer.
right? There's no subject without it. There's no object without a subject. That they are entwined in a way that they're created together. The concepts are created together. You can't just, you know, sort of like the
Yeah,
one hand clapping sort of thing. You can't
yeah.
you can't what there's a verb involved, I guess, right? That
Hmm.
there's a to observe.
Symbiotic.
To
Right.
observe is a
Hmm.
process,
Hmm.
and that process requires a separation into what is observed and the
And
observer.
to observe.
And so to then kind of reify the concept of just what is observed and pretend that there isn't a perspective that observes eventually gets you into trouble, paradoxes, because
Hmm.
you've pretended that something could be separated and cut off that actually is sort of two sides of the same coin or something like that,
Yeah.
depending
It's
on
like this two sides of the same coin. Is that found throughout like every like fundamental like characteristic of the universe? Like, is that in itself like everything to make everything consistent? Is that like a characteristic of every
Ooh, I like that idea.
like assumption to like is that just like inherent to consistency of like
There are
every
two sides,
yeah, yeah. There's
light and
always like
dark,
yeah,
life and
yes and
death,
no, one and
yes and no,
zero,
one and zero.
up
Ooh,
and down.
exist and not exist,
Yes, exist and not
right?
exist.
That's the most
Yeah,
fundamental one, right? It's sort of like
yeah,
you can't have
yeah,
existence without
true.
non-existence.
Yeah. But then things in superposition are both
Hmm.
sides of the coin at the same time.
Yes,
Does that
but they're
violate
they're
that?
possible, but maybe that's why they're, but there's also a difference between actual and possible,
Right.
right? And the
Right.
superposition is just looking at the possible. I'm making this
So,
up. I'm not sure
yeah,
I'm
no, no,
not
no, no.
standing by this.
I
I'm just
like it.
thinking it through with you. So I don't,
Yeah. Like,
you
because I mean, humans can like lie.
know, because we can
So
imagine
there's,
counterfactuals.
yeah, we can imagine counterfactuals. Could we imagine like, I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a counterexample
Okay.
to this like balance slash two sides of the same coin
Yeah,
kind of thing.
like a counterexample to the yin yang principle, if we wanted to call it
Yeah.
that, as a
Yeah.
as a
Yeah. The yin
core
yang
idea.
principle.
Somehow that feels deeper than two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. True. True. True.
I mean, nothing wrong with two sides of the same coin. I'm the one who said
Yeah.
that,
I
but
like yin yang better.
like the yin yang principle sounds like something you could write a paper on.
Yeah.
Um,
Could humans conceive of
a one-sided
something, yeah,
without
inconsistent
its
with yin
opposite.
yang verbs? Yeah.
That kind of what we want to say? Like,
Yeah.
is there something you can conceive of without being able to conceive of its opposite?
Yeah.
Is that the question? Or I'm not
I
insisting
think
this be.
so.
I'm
I
asking.
feel like this is very blurry because it's very new.
Yeah. Yeah, it's useful though.
Yeah, but
So
I
yeah.
think that's right.
Okay, yeah. So let's ask that question. Is there an idea you can, it's sort of like, actually, it's like, can you have a particle with no antiparticle,
Yeah,
right? It's, can you conceive of
yeah,
an idea that doesn't have a complementary opposite idea,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Tentatively, I think the answer is no,
Mhm.
you cannot.
I think I agree with that.
And the reason is because I can always, the antiparticle thing sort of clarified it for me
Hmm.
because if I try to name something that I think is is a counterexample to the yin yang
Hmm.
principle, then all I have to do is state the absence of whatever that thing is,
Yeah.
and that automatically becomes its opposite. So I can't think of an idea that I cannot do that with, that
Hmm.
I don't know that there isn't such a thing, but I
Yeah, and I mean even like bleeding more into like the gray like ambiguity, like the imagination is limitless. So you could always find something that would counteract another thing. Like, because I feel like also like an opposite of something is in itself like ambiguous. Like not every, like you could reason, like it's not everything's like black and white, right? Like you could
right,
have this thing and then the opposite of that thing could be many different things also.
right, or it could even be
Like
the same
what's,
thing,
yeah, yeah, like what's the opposite of like a chocolate chip cookie?
right,
Like, like
right.
it could be
It's
like,
not an
oh,
oatmeal cookie, for example, or
yeah,
whatever,
it's not an oatmeal cookie.
right?
Like you could say like, oh, it's just a chocolate bar with like cookie dough pieces in it, or like,
Right.
there's a
Or
lot
it's a
of
chocolate
different
chip cookie made
answers.
out of anti-protons or
Yeah,
you know,
true.
an
True.
anti-chocolate chip cookie, whatever annihilates the chocolate chip cookie when it meets.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And that is making me think of what about things that are their own opposites? Does that
Is that,
counteract the yin yang principle? Like a
yeah.
photon is its own antiparticle
Huh.
because it doesn't have charge. So
Right.
if you reverse everything, you still get the same. I think that's right, isn't it? I think a photon.
But you could do like the absence of the thing, like lightness and
Yes,
darkness too.
right. Yes. Right, like light and dark or
Hmm.
but you're
Because you
right.
can't have light without darkness.
Right.
There might be different categories in this
Yes. Your point about the
that
chocolate chip
were,
cookie is a good one, right? That there's like many things that could be.
because
No.
like in, like, yeah, like the light and dark is like one category, and then the photon and like anti-photon is like another category.
Right. Because like you said, you just have a photon and then the absence of a photon, and that's sort
Hmm.
of opposite.
Hmm.
Mhm. Or the chocolate chip cookie and the absence of a chocolate chip cookie,
Hmm. Hmm. Sure.
which is also related to happy and sad.
Yeah, maybe.
If assuming you like chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah. No, I didn't even think about that. So, 'cause like love and hate.
Hmm.
Like the definition of hate is the absence of love, and the definition of love is the absence of hate, right?
At least
So
it could
like,
be.
yeah, maybe.
So I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying there might be other
Yeah,
definitions that you could give.
because it seems like you could just, for the yin and yang principle, you could always just go to the absence of that thing and then just name the absence of that thing something else. Like
Yeah.
create a new name for the absence of that thing.
Yep.
But like for the antiparticle thing, it's not necessarily like an electron, the absence of electron is a positron. The absence of
Yeah, you're
electron
right.
is just an absence of electron. It's not necessarily a
Yeah,
positron.
no, you're right. And in fact, it's Um, um, the distinction is maybe even more clear than that in the sense that, an anti-electron, when it meets an electron, will annihilate
Hmm.
and make them both go away, whereas the absence of something doesn't annihilate something
In a way, the electron and positron make the absence of the
of either.
electron and the absence
Yeah,
of the positron.
right.
So could you argue that with their existence, with the other's existence in general, that the positron could be the absence of electron? Because if you have an electron and a positron together, it's the absence of an electron and the
Yeah,
absence of
and
a
a
positron.
positron. Right.
I
So an
don't think so. I
electron
think
and a
that's different.
positron are just nothing,
Yeah.
which is
Which is
its
the
own anti-nothing. Nothing, which is equal to anti-nothing.
yeah, that's funny.
Hmm.
What have we gotten ourselves
I don't know.
into?
I just had, I mean, this is often a slightly new direction,
Uh-huh.
but just a thought that came from all of this as I was just thinking back to where we started with, you know, trying to trying to be happy with what we're doing, I guess, or
Hmm. Hmm.
and I just had the thought that I think it was inspired by all the finding opposites of things. You know, implicitly our goal is to solve all problems, right? Like whatever is bothering us, we want to solve it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I just had this thought of imagine running forward to the state where, just give yourself the benefit of the doubt and suppose that you could solve all problems that
Hmm.
exist in your life.
Hmm.
And then what would you do?
Yikes.
And then that would be a new. So I guess my point is that
Yeah,
that would be a new problem. Like if you had
yeah,
solved all problems, then your life would feel pointless.
yeah.
And so maybe we can take comfort in the fact that we haven't solved all problems yet because maybe we can't solve all problems. I'm not saying it clearly.
No, I mean, I think like it's something that you've articulated a lot in the past already of like with questions.
Mhm.
Like the beauty of a question is that they never go away,
Right.
and it would be a sad life if all questions were answered.
Right. Yes. And so I guess maybe that's it. So circling all the way back around to the idea that, a full experience of existence has room for many stories that are not the one I happen to be aware of right now.
Hmm.
So circling back to that, I can I can use this to tell myself a new story. So if I'm frustrated, so let's just
Hmm.
imagine I'm in a state where I'm frustrated with something happening in my life because there's
Hmm.
something unresolved, which
Yeah.
is, most of the time we're in some sort of unresolved
Yeah.
state, either with sickness or some uncertainty or whatever, right? Um, what, in some sense, what I'm doing by being dissatisfied with that is I'm projecting to an imagined state that I feel like I wish I could get to where all these problems were solved.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Mm.
what I'm reminding us of now, is that even if I could do that, that actually wouldn't solve all problems because now my problem would be I have no goals anymore because I
Yeah.
so there's sort of a paradox in that I can't actually solve all the problems. So I mean, I guess it's related to the myth of arrival that you and Ashley and I talked about a couple months ago
Hmm.
or whatever, right? Is that I'm imagining that everything will be okay when I get to some end state.
Hmm.
And this exposes the lie of that or
Hmm.
I don't mean that maliciously. So,
Like the
exposes
romanticism
yeah,
of it.
right, exactly. It exposes the inadequacy of that belief system
Hmm.
where whatever the meaning of all this is has to be in the process, not in the arrival at the end state. Because if I arrived at the end state, I can see that that wouldn't solve everything because now I wouldn't
Hmm.
have anything to do.
Hmm.
So it gives me permission to relax a little bit in the current state
Hmm.
where I can be okay without all
Yeah.
my problems being solved because I know that solving all my problems wouldn't fix things either.
Yeah.
I still want to solve the problems that are in front of me. That's a perfectly fair thing to do,
Hmm.
but it dispels the illusion that the only reason I'm unhappy is because I haven't that's the way to say it.
Yeah.
It dispels the illusion that the only reason I'm unhappy is because I haven't arrived at the end state of solving all the problems.
Yeah.
It
That's beautiful.
reveals that something about existence is it's always going to be solving problems. And so
Hmm.
I can relax about the fact that I haven't solved them all yet. I can sort of
Hmm.
stop and ask, am I basically okay right now? And then
Right.
I was okay a few minutes ago. I'm okay right now. I could test
Hmm.
my theory and I'm going to be okay a few minutes from now. And
Yeah.
then I can just say, okay, I'm okay.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to keep having goals and I'm going to keep trying to figure things
Yeah.
out. And but I'm not going to live in the illusion that the reason that I'm not satisfied now is because I haven't yet solved everything.
Yeah.
And that changes the story because
Yeah.
because now I'm not sort of continually beating myself up that the reason I'm not
Yeah.
happy is because I wasn't smart enough to figure out this problem or that problem or whatever.
That's good.
Right? I've solved,
It.
you've solved lots of physics problems, right?
Hmm.
You've solved lots of life problems.
Hmm.
So you've got that in your track record that you've done that many, many times. So
Yeah.
whatever one you're stuck on now or ones you're stuck on now, when you solve them or when you win a chess game or whatever, right?
Hmm.
It's it'll be great and it's not going to make that longing go away. So whatever you're
Hmm.
going to do to assuage that longing is going to be something other than accomplishing one more thing. It's going to be
Yeah.
something about how you change your story or whatever, and that gives you kind of a freedom to keep doing things, but also not beat yourself up about, oh, the reason I'm not happy yet is because I haven't, you know, whatever, finished my PhD yet, or
Hmm.
we just keep replacing it with new things, right? I haven't written a book yet, or I haven't won a Nobel Prize yet, or pick your
Yeah.
favorite thing.
Favorite goal here.
There's a
Yeah, it's like
great, sorry, you go ahead.
no, you continue.
Okay, well, I was just gonna, Jim Carrey, the actor.
Hmm.
There's a great piece by him, kind of an interview, I think, where he talks about one of the things he says is that he wishes that everybody could become famous and successful so that they can realize that that doesn't solve everything, solve anything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but there's a great he introduces maybe that's what it is. I mean, it was like at a prize ceremony. He introduces himself as I don't know the names of the prizes even, but it's like
Hmm.
I'm Jim Carrey, a three-time, Golden Globe
Uh-huh.
winner or whatever the prize is.
Hmm.
And he says, and then after he introduces himself that way with kind of a chuckle, and he says, and I'm hoping this year to become a four-time Golden Globe winner because then I'll be at peace.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he just totally shatters any notion of, in other words, ha ha, right? I mean, most people would say, well, great, if I was Jim Carrey, the three-time Golden Globe winner, then I would be at peace. And here he's telling you
Hmm.
that, well, he already is the three-time Golden Globe winner, and now he wants a
Yeah.
fourth because then he'll be at peace,
Yeah.
which he won't.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so
No,
that,
it's I feel like this idea completely destroys the need to be serious
mm,
because like I feel like the need to be serious comes from the idea that eventually everything is going to be solved and you're going to be okay.
right.
Like that's where that needy, like negative thing comes in, is
Yes,
because the goal is that eventually you're going to be okay.
right.
But if you get rid of that notion that like, you know, you're always going to have problems, so you can relax because even, 20 years from now, when you predict you're going to be okay, you're still going to have problems.
Right.
You're just always going to have problems. So there's no timeline in trying to get rid of all the problems as fast as possible because they're always going to be there. They're not going to go
Yes.
away.
Yes. No, that's
So you
really good.
don't,
Yeah, good.
I was just going to say, so you don't have to like, or what was I going to say? Like, the problems are always going to be there. So there's no like due date. There's no like, you need to get rid of this problem by like like it's just a constant state of problems.
Right.
So like accepting that there's always going to be problems will make you more free because there's no deadline you have to meet.
Yes. That's good. And I would add one more piece to it,
Hmm.
which is that there are always going to be problems and you're already okay.
Yeah, there it
Right.
is. Yep.
I mean, like
That's
we're
the other
that's the
side of the
complementary
coin.
piece is that it's
The
like you're
the
taking
yang.
away the thought that, because there's a bit of a bummer that in realizing that working hard and being serious is not ever going to make you completely okay.
Hmm.
But the upside of that is that you're already okay.
Hmm.
And I mean it also, I mean, I know you know this, but I'll just say it out loud anyway, but I I find it's a delicate tightrope walk kind of to keep it balanced. Is, you could easily think that this is going to take away all motivation, right? If you just sort of say, well, I
Hmm.
don't have to be serious, I can just play and
Hmm.
it's going to be problems no
Hmm.
matter what I do, so I might as well make
Right.
the big problems by just being a disaster, right? And yet I don't think that it does because you
Hmm.
still there's still something like I still want to figure things out and I still want to
Hmm.
win, so to speak. And like
Yeah,
you
there's still
still
that
want to,
drive, that
yeah, there's still that
inspiration,
drive or that
the
inclination,
passion,
passion that's
inclination.
gonna make you serious in some sense, right? I mean, it's gonna
Hmm.
make you, but if you think about all the time that your work is derailed not by lack of seriousness, but by stress,
Hmm.
right? It's like you can be serious. You can be serious without taking yourself too seriously, kind of,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
I
Not the
mean,
stressful
like,
serious.
yeah, like I mean, just to make an example, just because it's concrete and
Hmm.
it comes to my mind, right? Like it really helped me over the summer that there was this essay contest
Hmm.
with a pretty much unreachable prize, right? I mean, they were going to pick
Hmm.
one person out of 3,000 essays or
Hmm.
whatever, and who knows what their criteria was. So, but it mattered that I had a realistic sense that I could win that prize. Like
Hmm.
that mattered in some sense
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make me focus and to make me think, okay, here's an audience I can have, and but it also mattered, and I was very conscious and careful about keeping this in mind. I let that dream be there while staying aware of, it wasn't always easy. Like sometimes I lost it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But most of the time, I stayed aware of the fact that I don't really care about
Hmm.
winning that.
Hmm.
And and so that balance mattered. I get, so you see what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the balance
yeah.
mattered because it let me stay serious and committed, but it also made it so that I didn't get attached to a particular outcome because I knew that that outcome wasn't going to solve everything.
Hmm.
It was just a not even a carrot. It was just sort of a way to give me a direction. And then as
Hmm.
I predicted, so then when they announced it and I didn't win,
Hmm.
the I was sad, right? I mean, there was like oh,
Yeah,
that's a bummer. I was kind of hoping, I was kind of excited about
yeah,
that. I thought I'd win and go do
yeah.
this. But yet almost immediately, some other conversations came around where I realized, oh, this would be a better venue for this, and I can make a few tweaks to the essay, and then I'll submit it to this journal, and then
Hmm.
now it's part of a bigger conversation than it probably would have been in this other. So,
Right.
and I sort of knew that all along, that that sort of
hmm
thing was going to happen. So it's kind of
hmm
this, I don't know, cosmic perspective sort of thing where I don't know if I'm saying this very well, but I'm trying to make it concrete that I think you can still you can still be serious and you can still care about winning and you can still care about
hmm
rewards and stuff.
hmm
You just don't buy into the belief that they're ever going to make everything okay. You can still enjoy them, just
Yeah.
like you enjoy a chocolate chip cookie or something. You can think, well, that would
hmm
be, you know what I mean? Like that would be
hmm
fun to win this.
hmm
But I'm not putting any stock in that making me okay.
hmm
It's just like it's going to be fun to see Jenna this evening, or it's going to be, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just
Yeah.
like there's lots of nice things in our lives, and we try to organize our inclinations and our directions by weighing those and figuring out what gives us meaning and stuff. But we don't get attached, or we do get attached, but we try to
Yeah.
we let go periodically of these attachments that make us think that any of
Well,
those things are ever going to make us okay. I think that's
yeah. And like the idea is like if you don't get it, like even like if you do get it, then I'm gonna be okay. Like that's, not a good way to think about it. But also if I don't get it, then I'm not gonna be okay is also not a good way to think. I think like
exactly.
I read in like the Thoughts for Actors book that I'm actually kind of forgot about, that I'm
Uh-huh.
still reading. There was like one section about like auditioning and like you go in because like you're driven and inspired by acting and it would be cool to have that role,
Yes.
but there were like that person gave like a bunch of examples of someone who was rejected from a role and that led them to another role that was better fit for them, like,
Exactly.
and like that's kind of also like their path then
Exactly.
too, just like.
Because it keeps
So
you, yeah,
I
no,
was
that's
just gonna
really good.
say like for like the path, the things that like you don't get and the things that make you sad are gonna be like those are still guiding you toward
Yeah.
a place where like even though you'll still have problems, you'll
Yes.
be in a place that you'll still be okay, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, they help you follow your thread or your
Mm-hmm.
path, right? Like I feel like we all
Mm-hmm.
sort of have this thread that drives that there's or the guides, right? There's sort of an underlying,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't even know how to articulate it all the time as you go along, but there's sort of a thread of
Mm-hmm.
what is it that I'm doing, right? What is it that
Mm-hmm.
I'm inclining toward or yearning toward
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And following those things that we feel ourselves want, like a role in a play or a
Mm-hmm.
prize for science or writing or something, those are those help us follow the thread as long as we don't get lulled into a mistaken notion that they're going to be the answer to everything. They're
Yeah.
just guideposts to keep us on the
Mm-hmm.
thread. And
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
what you just said about acting made me think of the story. Um, I read a bio of Harrison Ford about
Mm.
how I think we talked about this, right? That
Yeah, the carpenter.
yeah, but I mean that from what I understood, that was very intentional because it freed him
Mm-hmm.
from it allowed him to do exactly what you just said. That's what made me think of it again.
Mm.
Because his financial well-being, that's
Mm-hmm.
one form of okay. It's being able to
Mm-hmm.
feed his
Mm-hmm.
family, right, and himself.
Mm-hmm.
Because that didn't depend on him getting these roles, he was
Yeah.
able to maintain over a long time that attitude that you just nicely articulated, which is that he knew he loved acting and he knew
Mm-hmm.
he could find like, oh gosh, I would love to have that role. And so he could go
Mm-hmm.
audition for it wholeheartedly
Mm-hmm.
and hoping he gets
Mm-hmm.
it but also knowing that if he doesn't get it, he took a step in the direction of following his inclination, his thread
Mm-hmm.
that's going to move him closer to something else that'll give him his thread. But he could afford to do that because he wasn't like, this is my last chance and I need to eat sort of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
had a way of sustaining himself so that he could let that unfold without the attachment. At least
Yeah, and
that's my interpretation of what he said.
no, I like that a lot because I mean, even like with like Riley, right? Like Riley works at Hillstone, which is not fun,
Mhm.
and like wants to pursue acting, and so like every time Riley like goes to these like auditions and stuff, and like like gets rejected, like she still has to be at Hillstone. So like
Yeah.
even though it's not as bad as like I can't feed myself, it's still like if you were to find like another
Yes.
platform to support, because I mean also Riley, I don't know if I told you this, Riley is currently interning at Carnegie Hall.
No, that's
um
cool.
yeah, no, it's she's working in they call it the baby department, but it's um like child like outreach kind of thing where they do like baby operas to expose like babies and toddlers to like music
That's
for
cool.
families who don't have enough money to like give like to be don't have enough money to give that exposure to their kids,
Yep.
and stuff like that. And um Riley's been doing that, and she's like, gosh, I wish I could do this more. And like, I feel like if she could do that more and also like
Yes.
audition for things, like she would be so much happier, like in
Yes.
general.
Yes.
And I guess like this is just like an
That's
example of like
good.
the Harrison Ford thing and
No, that's
like
very
being
good,
like
right? So like, can you, I mean, because that becomes the useful guiding principle, I think, right? Is there a,
hmm
in the system of the world as it is at this moment that you exist in, is there a way for you to express your passion that is sustainable, that keeps you in that direction, that yeah, that's yeah, that's something that's more accessible than, and yet you can still pursue the other goals, right? So it's kind of like the
hmm
same thing. I mean, Einstein's working in the patent office was a
right.
similar example, right? Where that was, you could say, well, it would have been, he would have loved to have been a professor right away,
hmm
and that didn't work out for him. And yet he kept his hand in the thing that he loved by doing
hmm
something that was still fulfilling
yeah.
and also left him time and helped build his skills for being able to do the thing that he did love. So right, so
hmm
the standard example is like you love music and want to be a performer, you can teach music, and that
hmm
gives you a foundation from which to have a career that lets you also explore other things.
hmm
Although it can also take away all your time from being able to,
yeah,
to explore,
yeah.
so that's where the challenge of life is finding the
Yeah,
balance, right, of how to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, that's good.
And
That's a good
I
conversation.
I also did I bet my
Oh,
book.
oh yeah,
I
did you?
also did, yeah, instead of like meditating just by like sitting there and like thinking about it, I wrote it down.
No, that's great.
Like I've been doing this thing called like my morning pages,
Hmm.
where like every morning I have to write 3 pages in my journal, just like
Nice.
no matter what.
Yep, that's good.
Um, and so this not th I couldn't do it this morning because I had to go into work early. But um, I did it yesterday morning. Um, and the thing that I was writing about was, I guess, the topic sentence, like just kind of like what happened during the inflation period of the universe. Like
Okay, okay.
what was the thing that made our current universe flat, homogeneous, isotropic, and like like made the
Oh, very
horizon
good.
problem.
Solve the horizon problem. Okay.
Yes, like and like something that's um like I think the end goal of this, I didn't like get there in the 3 pages, but like was, what else could inflation be kind of
Hmm.
thing. And so I was
Hmm.
just kind of diving deeply into um I guess what was it? I guess maybe starting with the core assumption and then reasoning through to make everything consistent is good. Um, so let's use this starting place. Could we use the core assumption that the density was really high and perhaps even at a singularity, like the density was at a singularity point in the early universe?
Uh-huh.
And if the density was really high, does it make sense for the universe to already be uniform and flat? And it seems like the entropy would be really high, and that would be roughly a large amount of disorder and chaos, even though I'm kind of ignorant of chaos theory. Is there another option for the initial state of the universe? And so kind of all of this like followed through to let's see, the idea like the early universe being like equalized and like homogeneous, isotropic,
Mhm,
flat,
mhm.
and then like not very equalized and needing to undergo like having only that small amount of time to equalize, like we
Uh-huh.
were talking about for like the horizon
Uh-huh.
problem. Um, let's see, it could be a case that there's some issues because I mean also like we in a similar problem to that is like the galaxies forming earlier than we expected them to. Like there was a smaller amount of
Uh-huh.
time from
Uh-huh.
the Big Bang where galaxies were also forming
Uh-huh.
earlier than we expected.
Uh-huh.
Um, but then also I kind of weaned into entangled particles.
Okay.
um,
That's good.
it was, where did it go? I've been thinking about a paper by Page and Wooter about showing how entangled particles might prove that time is an emergent property rather than an inherent property of the universe, emerging from entangled particles. Well, with the assumption that the universe's row was at a singularity point at the quote unquote beginning, is that is the perfect opportunity for entangled particles to form. Maybe also all the information about the universe was determined at the singularity because that's when the entangled particles were made, question mark. The
Hmm.
homogeneity from one far region to another is just a pair of entangled particles, question mark. The
Hmm.
consistent temperature was caused by a pair of entangled particles, question mark.
Uh-huh.
Maybe even though the singularity was incredibly dense and had high entropy, the entangled particles that formed because of symmetry, the quote unquote yes and quote unquote no aspects of them balanced out to make the early universe equalized before the cosmic microwave background, then stayed equalized as entangled particles moved farther and farther away from each other. The problem with that, though, is that I have heard that the bond between entangled particles is easily broken, so they wouldn't
Hmm.
be resistant to the harsh reality of space unless something that was an uncommon occurrence in space were the only thing capable of breaking their bond. As a side note, if all the information in the universe was established through entangled particles, this incorporates observers into the universe, observers experiencing the separation of space and time, and gravity pulling and electromagnetism pushing and pulling. So, like the yes and no, because
Hmm.
the observers are collapsing entangled particles.
Hmm.
So, maybe the universe is just this chaotic blob of information, and all these consistencies and separations and patterns and distinctions arise after we have collapsed the superposition of information entangled particles.
I mean, as funny as that sounds, right? I mean, I think there's some merit in exploring that line of thought because especially because what makes the ha-ha about it is we're thinking about the collapse being like us,
Hmm, hmm,
observers in our
hmm.
form or whatever, which,
Uh-huh.
like, well, we came along later. So, but I think there's a lot of merit. I- hmm, this is, of course, I don't want to bias you too much. This is just
Yeah.
my speculation, so this could be completely
Hmm,
wrong. But my hunch is that in the next 50, in your career, in the next 50
hmm.
years of research in fundamental physics, I think the next essential breakthrough is going to come from getting a deeper understanding of what we even mean by observer and observed, and
Mm-hmm.
collapsing
Mm-hmm.
the wave function, and
Mm-hmm.
how that whole
Mm-hmm.
interface between what is known and
Mm-hmm.
the process by which it is known. I don't think we're clear. There are lots of situations. Physics has mostly worked on situations where that can be cleanly separated, where it's just
Mm-hmm.
naturally obvious what's the thing observed and what's the observer. That
Right.
you don't have to worry about too much about it. I mean, all the puzzles are where they start to get fuzzy. So, and I certainly think the beginning of the universe is going to be one of these areas where that's going to need to be flushed out. Like, what do we mean when
Right.
we say the universe had these properties?
Mm-hmm.
When what does it mean? What does an observer mean at that
Mm-hmm.
level?
Right.
And how do we, operationally, how do we implement an observation in that
Mm-hmm.
in our mechanics, right? In our
Mm-hmm.
actual implementation of the theory. So all of that is to say, I think that is what you just said, sort of semi-jokingly, is probably at least the seed of a useful line of thought, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
what does it actually mean to collapse the wave function when we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
the whole universe? Because
Yeah.
our whole structure of doing physics is built around situations where there's a clean separation, where there's an observer over here observing a confined system,
Mm-hmm.
that we can talk about those observational interactions. Whereas when we're talking about the whole universe, we lose the ability to do that.
Yeah.
We somehow have to bring back together this yin and yang, like we're talking about,
Yeah.
of observer and observed, because we can no longer, mm, it no longer just naturally separates for us. We have to do that as
Mm-hmm.
part of our
Mm-hmm.
theory. So I certainly
Mm-hmm.
don't have any, I don't think anybody has any answers yet about how to do that, but
Yeah.
I think in the next decades, some of these problems that seem intractable are going to be addressed best by figuring out how to articulate what we mean by observer and observed. If that
Mm-hmm.
does that make sense? So anyway, so all that is
Yeah.
just, I think that's a useful line of thought.
Yeah.
Uh, the other thing on a more manageable, small level,
Yeah.
I think listening to what you were talking about, I think some useful anchors to put in the ground would be
Mm-hmm.
something like, what are all the possible ways you can think of to explain the uniformity of the early universe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like inflation is one,
Mm-hmm.
what you were just talking about is one, just like make a list of
Mm-hmm.
every idea you can think of in as much detail as you can about what needs to be explained, like how uniform is it? What is the
Mm-hmm.
uniformity for how long? And how could you explain that? What would an explanation look like? So that you shake loose of, inflation could be Penrose's cyclic universe kind of thing, could be, but just kind of get get some more stories in the running
Mm-hmm.
about what it
Mm-hmm.
would even look like to explain that. I think that would be a useful thing for you to bring into
Yeah. I like
research
that.
community, right? When people start
Mm-hmm.
proposing things that are the norm, you at least
Mm-hmm.
have some thoughts about what else could it be, or why are those
Mm-hmm.
the best solutions, whatever. So that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that you brought up, which is sort of a complement to that, is it has to be really uniform at the beginning to explain what the cosmic microwave background looks like. Think about the
Mm-hmm.
timeline. But
Mm-hmm.
it also has to, from that uniform state, it has to pretty quickly start to clump
Mm-hmm.
to explain
Right.
the not perfect uniformity. It's like what one part in the fluctuations are, like one part in 10 to the fifth, and that show up in the
Mm-hmm.
cosmic microwave background.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you said, you reminded me, very quickly, quicker than we thought,
Mm-hmm.
after that, the structures of galaxies start to form
Mm-hmm.
in what, less than 100 million years or something from that.
Yeah.
That's what the Webb is showing. So
Mm-hmm.
those are some anchors, some observational anchors in the ground, is like, if you can practice in your writing, like thinking through the anchors we have, which are
Hmm.
uniformity early, cosmic microwave background level non-uniformity at that
Hmm.
stage, and then whatever it is, you should look up better than I remember.
Yeah,
But,
the
something like
time.
100,000. I mean, this is changing too as we get more evidence.
Hmm.
But whatever the next step is of when we know that cores of galaxies have formed,
Hmm.
um, what can explain? There's some gaps in all of that.
Yeah.
Why was it uniform? And then also, so for example, one option would be maybe there's some observer level consistency argument, kind of like the principle of relativity, that says it just has to be uniform at the beginning. Maybe
Hmm.
there's some
Hmm.
explanation like that, and you don't
Hmm.
need inflation, but there's something that says to be consistent, it has to be uniform at the beginning.
Hmm.
So that would be something you could write a theory about.
Hmm.
And then maybe primordial black holes formed with a certain
Hmm.
distribution at a certain stage, and maybe those were the seeds that made the structures
Hmm.
form faster than
Hmm.
people originally thought. So that would be like a coherent set of things that would explain these
Yeah.
observations. And those are unanswered concrete puzzles to be
Yeah.
solved that I think, assuming that they're interesting, which I'm
They are. They
gathering
are. They
they
very
are. You
much are.
shouldn't do it. You
Yeah.
shouldn't do any of this if it's not interesting. But I'm trying to also help like think about shaping what are some deep things that are interesting that are likely to be data enriched solvable problems in the foreseeable future that you could sort of go into your graduate program and be saying, okay, now we have some concrete benchmarks about microwave background structure 100 million years later. Can I build a model using primordial black holes, say, that would
Hmm.
get us there,
Hmm.
that would explain
Hmm.
the data in a way that hasn't been explained before? That might be, I mean, maybe somebody's already
Yeah.
started. I'm sure somebody's probably at least started to do something like that, but
Yeah.
it's not there's not an answer yet. So that might be the kind of question that you could investigate. But that's really good.
Yeah.
You should definitely keep writing like that because I think that
Cool.
did it. And how did it feel? Did it feel
It felt
fun?
great.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I felt good after that. And I actually was very productive that day at the cafe as well. Because I usually start with the morning pages
Yeah, good.
and then I like go into the things that I need to do. So yeah,
Cool.
I think that that's very good. And I don't know, I've just noticed in general though also like to think through things, it really helps me to just write it.
Yep.
Like even though I hate like even
You
though
resist.
yeah, even though I resist. Well, I mean, I feel like now like with the morning pages and then like the idea of just like, keeping a diary or like whatever, like
Uh-huh.
because there's no pressure.
Yeah.
Like it's not horrible anymore.
I think
Like
that's the
the
key is the
things
no pressure.
yeah. Yeah, the key is the no pressure because I mean, writing a paper is probably going to be like different,
Yeah.
because you know that people are going to read it eventually.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, like these, it's just like boom.
And it lets you, I'm just thinking this through as you talk about it, like I think it lets you find what you're enthusiastic about. It sort of
Hmm.
gets the pressure out
Hmm.
of the way so you can find what you're enthusiastic about, and then you can carry that through the rest of the day when you're doing calculations and stuff, because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, now I have a thread that I care about, and I've let the enthusiasm shine before it gets
Hmm.
stifled by the
Hmm.
critic, kind
Hmm.
of, right?
Hmm.
The critic that comes in and says, "Oh, I should know how to calculate this," or whatever. You just
Yeah.
you just let yourself roam free to see what's interesting to think about. And then you have that enthusiasm to carry you through the inevitable sticky
Critic.
points, right? And the
Yeah.
critic, right? Which, I mean,
Yeah.
the critic has a role too, right?
Yeah. The critic has a role.
But not all the time.
Yeah,
Not
just
even
not as
not even most
prominent
of
as
the time.
it currently is.
Exactly. You don't want the critic dominating your life. You don't want
Yeah.
the critic to go away
Yeah.
because then, you know, then then you lose your grip on reality in some way. So the
Yeah.
critic plays a useful role. Well, it's like
hmm
the line from Cosmos, right? When they I think Neil deGrasse Tyson probably says this too, but I remember it from the Carl Sagan one where he
hmm
says, "We will not be afraid to speculate, but we will be
hmm
careful to distinguish fact from speculation."
Yeah. Yeah. That has more meaning now that you say that.
Hmm.
Wow.
We will not be afraid to speculate. That's
hmm
key anchor point. Because if we're afraid to
Yeah.
speculate, we don't get anywhere. But if all
Yeah.
we do is speculate and we don't have a
Then
filter,
we won't
then
get
we lose our
anywhere.
grip on reality and we don't know what
Yeah.
to believe anymore,
Yeah.
which sadly seems, well, it's a whole- seems seems like as a society we're moving a little in that direction. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
very good.
This was very good.
Yes.
I think I need to eat some food,
Yeah, I need to eat some food too.
but
And then
yeah, that's good.
I'm gonna go see. Did you ever? You probably never had Tyler Brumfield for a class. He taught art. He teaches art
Mm-mm.
here, but he and I interact quite a bit, and I really enjoy his philosophy of art and his show today at the Cavine Gallery.
hmm
So the reception, the show's going on for weeks, but
Oh,
the
wow.
reception where he's going to talk about it is today at 4.
Oh, well.
And I love the title of his exhibition. It's called Make Many Things.
Make many things. What's his philosophy?
Well, he what I've heard him express is that he sees art as a way of making ideas real,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Making
hmm
taking
Yeah.
ideas and bringing them into fullness of reality. Kind of those aren't his words. That's not how he would.
No, I really like that. Yeah,
But I think so it resonates with kind of my sense of what we're doing when we do
yeah.
science, right? Is we're trying to
hmm
take these ideas about how the world can be and map them onto what actually happens. And he does that with his art in an interesting way. So anyway, so I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. And he's very
That's
playful,
cool.
right? As you can tell by
Uh-huh.
the title does not sound
Making
very
many
serious. I'm good.
things.
What did you do? Because he was just on sabbatical this last just fall semester, I think.
hmm
So this was his sabbatical project. And so what are you going
Oh,
to do with your
nice.
sabbatical? I'm going to make many things.
Make many. I love
I'm
that.
gonna I'm gonna write stuff.
Yeah, that
That'll
takes
be my
away.
title. Write stuff.
I'm gonna write stuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I think going back to what we were talking about earlier is that kind of takes away the there is an end
Mhm.
thing you need to meet, and that takes away the need and seriousness because you're just gonna make many things.
I'm gonna make many things.
Yeah.
Who knows what they will all be?
hmm
Yeah. All
Awesome.
right. So let's go
All
eat some
right.
things. Eat some
Yes,
things
let's go
and
eat
look at
some
some things.
things, and then you're
Write
gonna
some
go
things. I'm
learn
gonna
about
go
making many
learn about
things.
making many things. And then we'll just check in, just keep writing about the things that you're interested in about the early universe, and then
hmm
we'll check back in on like, Tuesday or something. We'll
Tuesday. Yeah, I
just
think
plan
Tuesday
a
would be
time
good.
for next week to meet and chat some more.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. Yes.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Have
Take
fun
care,
exploring.
Todd.
Yeah, you too, Logan.
Thank
I'll
you.
talk to you soon. Yep.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.